Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. As I promised in my last video to make more videos, I am working on my second video here today. I'm still here at Hinokicho Park, where it's a very beautiful and warm day. A little bit too warm to be wearing this. I have mimosa bushes around me that are all in blossom, and it smells so wonderful here at the park. The willow trees here around the pond, maybe you can hear the waterfall a little bit in the background, are turning very green again, and it's very nice. The plum blossoms are just about gone, but the cherry blossoms we hope will be blooming here shortly, maybe in the next couple of weeks or so. So we're all looking forward to that here in Japan. The subject of my second video today is going to be about another Olympus Pen camera, and this is one of the later variations of the Pen half frame series. This particular one is the Pen EED. And this is a really interesting camera, one of the last of the Pen series, and quite a lot, I guess, more technologically advanced than the earlier Pen cameras. A little bit bigger and bulkier, but of course that's necessary to, I guess, contain the extra features which this particular camera has. Now, this camera was designed to take the place of the other EE series, like the EE2 and EE3, which featured the selenium light meters. The EED, on the other hand, featured a battery-powered CDS light meter, which a lot of people consider to be more accurate and perhaps more durable than the selenium-type meters. Overall, it's a really well-made and solid camera. It has metal all the way around it, kind of flat on both sides. It feels kind of like a block of metal with the leatherette on the front and back to grip it. It's an interesting camera, and one which I haven't actually shot myself yet, but which I really want to take out and try and use, because I think that one of these is really capable of taking great half-frame photographs. So let's go ahead and take a look at the features, controls, and functions of the Pen EED, starting at the top. And here we have the film rewind lever, which is pretty much similar or the same as the earlier Pen cameras going back to the 1950s. Over here on this side here we have the hot shoe for mounting a flash, and of course you can use a modern flash with the Pen EED. Here we have the shutter release button, and it is threaded to accept a standard cable release. Below here we have a little dial indicator which you use to set the film speed, and you can go up to about ASA 400 on this particular camera. And over on the right side here we have the film counter window. That's where this orange pointer is pointing to. On the back of the camera we have the viewfinder eyepiece. You can see the frame line located on the inside here. This is pretty much identical to the other Pen series cameras. And over here we have the plastic film winding and shutter charging knob, which is pretty much the same as all of the other Pen half frame cameras. Moving on to the bottom here, we have the battery cover. The Pen EED uses a mercury battery, or it originally used a mercury battery, an MR9 1.3 volt battery. You can use a 1.5 volt or LR44 battery without an adapter. Just take this off and bend up the metal clip underneath just a little bit, and then put your LR44 battery, and then put the cap back on, and you should be able to get the meter to work. You're not going to be very accurate with the meter with a 1.5 volt battery, but at least you can get an idea if the battery or the camera or light meter works by putting one in. Of course, to get the best performance you should be using 1.3 volts. I recommend using a MR9 adapter, one of those kind which has a built-in diode which steps down the voltage. These adapters cost about between $15 and $20, but depending on where you get them from. But the good thing about them, though the initial investment is a little bit high, after you get one you can use any number of LR44 or SR44 batteries, which are only a few cents each, and in the long run you'll save money. You can use wine cell batteries, which run maybe $6 or $7 a piece, but in the long run it's more economical to use the adapter, especially if you're going to be shooting a lot. Over here on this side we have the lever which you use to disengage the film winding mechanism and allow you to rewind the film. And of course we have a standard 3/8 inch tripod socket. On the front here we have a self-timer, kind of like the other Pen cameras. To operate it, you pull it over this way and simply push the button here, or you should push it like so. And fortunately this one still works. In my previous videos, of course, I've explain that you shouldn't use the self-timers on these cameras if you can help it. It tends to be the weak link in these cameras. The shutters are very well made, winding mechanisms are very well made, but the self-timers are just kind of an afterthought, and they are not engineered as well as the rest of the camera. And often these old cameras, when they aren't working properly or the shutter won't fire, odds are that it's probably going to be a bad self-timer. Moving to the front of the camera here to the lens, this is more of a conventional camera, so we have a few important functions located on this part of the camera. We have the focusing ring here, which focuses from 0.8 meters or 2.6 feet to infinity. We have a couple of marks here. We have the mark for 3 for 12, and 3 is the kind of distance you want. So if you're taking a photograph of someone who is standing up and you want their entire body inside the frame, just set it to this setting. You know, you're taking a photo of a friend standing nearby or a group of people together. This is the setting to use for that. If you are going to be taking a portrait, set it to 1.2. That's also marked in red, and that'll give you just about the right size, or the best, I guess, focusing range for taking a portrait of someone. In front of that we have the ring. This is the auto selector and aperture selector ring. When you're using one of these cameras, it's basically an automatic camera, so always have the camera set to auto unless you are using a flash. When you use a flash, then you would use the f-stop, which is recommended for whatever flash setting that you happen to be using. Operating the camera is quite simple. You simply set it to auto, you wind the film, and you take a photo. So long as that you have enough light for the shutter and aperture to compensate for, it will take a photo. If it is either too light or too dark, usually too dark, you'll get a red flag warning in here. A red flag will pop up and let you know that that the light is not sufficient to take a photo and to try to do something else. So on an automatic camera like this, you don't really have a lot of options other than possibly adjusting the ASA dial to change the exposure compensation a little bit. But overall, it's just an automatic camera. I really like this camera, as I said at the beginning of the video, and this is one which I would really like to go out and try. I really like the lens on these cameras, the 32mm f1.7. This is the same lens which they used in some of the other Pen cameras, like the Pen EED series. And I'm really interested to see what it would work like in an automatic camera, as the D series and some of the other ones are actually full manual cameras. So I hope to get this camera out and do a little bit of shooting with it and see how well it works. Loading in the film in one of these cameras isn't so difficult. You simply go to the side here, push upward, and the film door opens. I really like these cameras for one reason, and it has this double channel system around the film door, and this allows you to use a minimum of light seals. One problem that I often have with some of these old Olympus cameras is that they use a lot of light seal material, especially cameras like the Olympus DC. Pretty much instead of having a spring here, they have a thick piece of foam rubber. They have wide foam channels on both sides. And while these do a good job at keeping out the light, over time these film seals or light seals tend to dry rot. And then you get all this black dust and stuff which gets all over the inside of the camera and does all kinds of harm to it. So that's one great improvement which they made to the Pen EED, which is something which I wish they would have done on cameras like the DC and SP and others. For loading the film, push up on the film fork so you can open up the film chamber, drop your film cartridge in this side, and push down, wiggle a little bit so that this sets down all the way. Pull your film across the film chamber here and feed it into the take-up spool, and simply wind it like so and fire the shutter a few times until the teeth on both sides of the film are engaged in the sprocket here. Then close the film door and wind the shutter until the number 1 shows up in the film counter window. Now, being this is a half frame camera, you can get about 72, usually as many as 75 or 76 shots on a 36 exposure roll of 35mm film. And one thing I really like about these half frame cameras, the Olympus ones, is despite being kind of a low resolution half frame format, they really do take very high quality photos. And you can get really interesting effects in the half frame format. You can get like say really grainy photos if you're using faster 400 or 800 speed films, black and white films. And they have a character which I really like. I ran around with an Olympus Pen W, a little wide angle half frame camera for about a year. I shot a lot of rolls with the camera, and I kind of got it just as a novelty because someone had told me it was a good camera, so I got it and I went out and I shot with it. And unfortunately, it wasn't until after I sold the camera which I developed the film and actually realized what a great camera it was. And now I've been kind of looking for another Pen W to take its place. Unfortunately, a good Pen W is a little bit hard to find. The camera itself is quite simple and easy to work on, but compared to some of the other cameras, it has this odd 25mm lens which has a cemented, I guess, block in front where two lenses are cemented together, and the cement between the lenses always tends to become hazy or suffer from deterioration. And so far, out of the dozen or so Pen W cameras I've looked at, I haven't been able to find one which doesn't have this, so I'll just have to keep looking, I suppose. But in the meantime, I can always shoot something like this, which I'm sure will give me great results. Anyway, if you're interested in buying this camera, I plan to put it up for sale in my online stores after I am done with it myself. I have a couple of online stores where I sell cameras. The first one is JapanVintageCamera.com, and the other is my Etsy store, which is also called Japan Vintage Camera. So if you're interested in buying this camera or another vintage Japanese camera, please visit one of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you subscribe. I plan to be making more videos of this sort in the future. If you like the video, please like it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.